Have you ever found yourself standing perfectly still in the middle of your kitchen?
Oh, I know where this is going.
Right. You know the exact scenario I'm talking about. You're just staring down at the shattered ceramic remains of what used to be a favorite coffee mug.
And you just freeze.
You freeze, and suddenly you feel your brain booting up this highly advanced defense mechanism.
It's pure survival instinct.
It really is. You're standing there, the handle is in three pieces, coffee is seeping into the grout of the tile, and you hear footsteps approaching.
The worst sound in the world.
Exactly. Someone walks in, maybe your spouse, your roommate, a parent, and they look at the mess. Then they look at you.
Yeah.
And instead of just stating the simple, undeniable, objective truth, which is, I broke the mug.
Which would be the honest thing to do.
Right? But instead, you look at them with these wide, innocent eyes, and you say, the mug was broken.
The classic pivot.
You haven't technically lied to them.
No, not technically.
You haven't, fabricated some fictional intruder who came in and smashed it. You've just somehow magically removed yourself from the physical scene of the crime.
Just through the sheer power of grammar.
Yes, the sheer power of grammar.
It really is the ultimate magic trick of human communication, isn't it?
It absolutely is.
And what's genuinely fascinating here is that we all do this instinctively. I mean, you don't need a degree in linguistics to pull that trick off.
You don't.
We learned very early on in life, almost intuitively, that the way we structure a sentence can entirely shift the spotlight of responsibility.
Use it as a shield.
Exactly. We learn to use language not just to convey information, but as a shield to deflect consequences.
A linguistic shield. I love that phrasing. And that perfectly sets up our mission for this deep dive today.
I'm very excited about this one.
Me too. We are unpacking a really fascinating stack of source material that is, well, on the surface, it's just a straightforward language lesson.
Good.
Specifically, it is an intermediate level English guide. And it's designed to teach learners about something called the passive voice.
Which sounds incredibly dry on paper.
It does sound dry. But before you, the listener, assume we're about to just read a textbook at you, let me assure you, this material is doing something much more subversive.
Much more.
The guide brilliantly uses this highly relatable, high-stakes context of household chores and avoiding domestic responsibility to explain these complex grammatical concepts.
It's an incredibly smart pedagogical choice, honestly.
It is.
Because if we look at this from a broader psychological perspective, while this source material was explicitly designed as a pause, write, and repeat exercise for people learning English.
Like a way to drill verbs and memorize sentence structures.
Exactly. But it actually serves as a profound window into human behavior.
Yeah.
We aren't just going to sit here and explore the dry mechanics of how to build these sentences. We're going to dig deeply into why the passive voice is the absolute perfect precision-engineered tool for, as the text specifically calls it, a lazy bones.
A lazy bones. I think we all have a little bit of that lazy bones energy inside of us.
Especially when there's a sink full of dishes waiting.
Oh, absolutely. So let's start by analyzing what we might call the domestic battlefield.
Let's do it.
Because the guide smartly grounds its entire grammatical exploration in everyday household vocabulary. It lists out the heavy hitters of domestic labor.
The worst chores.
The worst ones. We've got sweeping. And the guide makes a point to highlight its irregular past tense, swept.
Right.
We've got mopping, doing the dishes, taking out the trash, repairing, and cleaning. It's a very deliberate curation of vocabulary to set the stage.
It is deliberate. And let's look at why it's so effective for learning a concept like the passive voice.
Okay.
Think about what these specific words represent in your daily life. Chores are inherently not passive activities.
Not at all.
They demand physical exertion. They demand a sacrifice of your free time. And most importantly for our discussion today, they require an active agent.
Someone actually has to do the work.
Precisely. Someone has to physically hold the broom. Someone has to plunge their bare hands into the hot, soapy water to scrub those dishes.
Ugh.
By anchoring the grammar lesson in these highly tangible physical actions, the guide ensures that the learner immediately grasps the real-world stakes.
That makes total sense, because if I say to you, the concept was internalized, that's incredibly abstract.
Very abstract.
But if I say, the trash was taken out, you can literally smell the difference between whether that action happened or not.
You really can.
And the guide doesn't just stop at defining the physical actions. It brings in the emotional weight of these chores, too.
Yes, the psychological mood.
Right. It introduces a couple of very specific phrases to set the scene. First, it introduces that word we mentioned, lazybones.
Such a great word.
The text defines it simply as someone who is very lazy. It's this descriptive, almost playful term, but if you've ever had it directed at you, you know it carries a distinct sting.
Lazybones is a fascinating compound word, isn't it?
It is.
It implies a laziness that goes far beyond just taking a quick break. It suggests a lethargy that permeates all the way down to the skeletal structure.
Wow, yeah. Down to the bones.
It's not just that your muscles are resting, it's that your very bones are averse to participating in the labor of the household.
I feel seen right now.
Right. By introducing this specific archetype, the text perfectly sets up the antagonist, so to speak, of our grammar lesson.
The lazybones is absolutely the villain of the domestic sphere. And then, right on the heels of that, the guide pairs it with an idiom designed to express the complete opposite end of the emotional spectrum.
Drives me crazy.
Exactly. It drives me crazy. The guide defines this as making someone very annoyed, and it provides this beautifully relatable, high-anxiety example. Quote, "The dirty kitchen drives me crazy."
That specific phrase, "it drives me crazy," is doing a lot of heavy lifting in this lesson
How so?
because it establishes the stakes we were talking about. A dirty kitchen isn't just a neutral, objective fact of the physical universe.
No, it's a crisis.
It is a psychological burden. It causes active distress to the people living in it.
Mm-hmm.
So look at the dynamic we've established from the very first page of the source material.
Okay.
We have the source of the distress, which is the dirty kitchen.
Yeah.
And we have the lazybones, who refuses to take action to alleviate that distress.
The tension is real.
Very real.
Mm.
This raises a critical point about why this specific domestic context is an absolute masterstroke for teaching this grammar.
Tell me.
The domestic sphere, the division of labor at home. These domains are entirely about action, agency, and responsibility.
Who did the work, who didn't?
Exactly, who failed to do the work. And the passive voice, at its very core, is a grammatical device designed specifically to manipulate your perception of action and responsibility.
But wait, let me play devil's advocate for a second here.
Please do.
Couldn't you learn the passive voice just as easily by reading a science report? Like, you know, the chemical was heated to boiling point.
Sure.
That's classic passive voice, and it doesn't involve anyone fighting over a dirty kitchen.
You certainly could learn to recognize the structure from a science report, but you wouldn't necessarily learn the utility of it in human interaction.
The utility.
Right. A science report uses the passive voice to be objective, to remove the scientist from the experiment.
Because it doesn't matter who heated the chemical.
Exactly. But in everyday life, we rarely use the passive voice for pure scientific objectivity. We use it to navigate social friction.
Social friction.
Yes. A dirty kitchen demands a culprit or a savior. If you learn the grammar within a sterile scientific environment, you miss the entire social strategy behind it.
That is so true.
The domestic battlefield is the perfect arena because you cannot effectively learn how to dodge responsibility unless you are placed in a scenario where responsibility actually matters to your survival, or at least your comfort.
That is a brilliant distinction. The stakes are what make the grammar useful in the first place.
Exactly.
So, knowing that we are dealing with high-stakes household friction, let's move into the actual architecture of the passive voice.
The mechanics of it.
Right. The source material provides a very clear, almost mathematical formula for how to construct these evasive sentences. And I appreciate that it doesn't treat the reader like a child. It expects you to grasp the mechanics.
It deconstructs the mechanics very elegantly.
Walk us through it.
The core formula provided in the guide is subject plus the verb to-be plus the past participle.
The past participle.
Yes, the guide refers to this past participle simply as V3, which is pretty standard shorthand for anyone who has ever studied English as a second language.
Right. For you listening, if you haven't looked at a verb conjugation chart since high school, it's just that third column on the chart.
The third column.
The guide assumes you know this, but just to visualize it, speak is V1, spoke is V2, and the V3, the past participle, is spoken.
Perfect example.
Or break, broke, broken. This entire architectural structure relies completely on that V3 form.
It does.
So the formula again is subject plus some form of the verb to-be plus V3.
And the true genius of this formula is that it requires a fundamental cognitive shift in how we view the subject of the sentence itself.
How so?
Think about a standard active sentence. In an active sentence, the subject is the star of the show. The subject is the one doing the sweating, the lifting, the acting.
The subject is the hero.
The subject is the hero. But in this passive formula, the subject is entirely stripped of its agency.
It gets demoted.
Well, not demoted in position, but in action.
Yeah.
But the subject becomes the receiver of the action. It just sits there completely inert and has things done to it.
Okay, let's walk through the exact examples the text uses to illustrate this shift. And I want to pay really close attention to how the tense of that all-important to be verb changes the entire reality of the sentence.
It changes everything.
The guide starts in the present tense. For the active voice, the baseline example is, I clean the room.
Very straightforward.
Incredibly direct. I'm the actor, clean are the action. The room is the target of my labor.
Notice how in that active version, the actor is front and center. You are taking ownership.
I clean the room.
But then the guide flips it to the present passive, applying the formula we just talked about.
Okay.
The room is cleaned.
The room is clean.
Notice what happened there. The room has been promoted. It has been moved to the very front of the sentence to occupy the subject position.
Right.
And our verb be is deployed in the present tense, is followed immediately by our V3, cleaned.
So, subject, be, V3, the room is cleaned.
Exactly. Now, the guide makes a really important note here. This present passive structure indicates a regular, everyday occurrence.
A routine.
Yes. It implies a steady state of being. If you say, the room is cleaned, you are implying it is a standard routine, perhaps managed by a daily hotel staff or an incredibly diligent roommate.
Right, you aren't talking about a specific event. You're describing the reality of the room.
It's general truth.
But then the guide shifts to the past tense, and this is where I think the real narrative power comes into play.
Oh, absolutely.
The active past tense example is, I cleaned the room yesterday.
Taking the credit.
Once again, I am stepping up to the microphone and taking full, unadulterated credit for the sweaty work I did. I cleaned the room yesterday.
A proud statement.
But the passive past tense transforms this reality into, the room was cleaned yesterday.
And just like that.
All the credit, all the specific identity of the hardworking individual just vanishes into the ether. The room was cleaned yesterday.
What's truly remarkable here, linguistically speaking, is how heavy a burden that little auxiliary verb be carries in this formula.
That tiny little word.
Whether you choose is, are, was, or were, that tiny, easily overlooked word is doing all the heavy lifting of establishing time and reality.
Because the main verb doesn't change.
Right. Notice that the main verb, the V3 cleaned, never changes. It just sits there rigidly, completely indifferent to time.
It's locked in.
It's the to be verb that acts as the temporal dial. It shifts us seamlessly from a present routine to a completed past event.
It really is the engine of the sentence. Which brings us to a specific warning in the guide. And it's emphatically labeled the crucial mistake.
I love this part.
The text practically grabs the learner by the shoulders and says, you must never, ever say, the room cleaned.
This is perhaps my favorite teaching moment in the entire text.
Why is that?
Because it forces the learner to confront the underlying logic of the language. The text explains exactly why this is absurd. A room cannot physically clean itself.
Obvious.
A room does not possess hands. It does not know how to hold a mop. It possesses no agency and no animacy.
It's an inanimate object.
If you string those words together and say the room cleaned, you are structurally granting the room the biological power to perform a physical action.
It's like granting legal autonomy to drywall.
Exactly.
You're creating this bizarre universe where the architecture suddenly wakes up, sprouts arms, and starts sweeping its own floors. It's ridiculous.
It is ridiculous, but it perfectly highlights why the to be verb is absolutely non-negotiably essential.
It anchors the reality.
It acts as the structural bridge of reality.
Okay.
It signals to the listener's brain, hey, the subject we are talking about right now in the front of the sentence, it didn't do anything.
Don't blame the subject.
Do not assign it agency. Something happened to it. Without that tiny bridge, the sentence collapses into complete absurdity. The to be verb is the ultimate required indicator of passivity.
It's like a grammatical traffic cop holding up a hand and directing the flow of the action away from the subject.
That's a great analogy.
Okay, so now that we have a solid grip on the architecture subject plus be plus V3, we have to ask the much bigger question.
The why.
The why. Why do we, as human beings, go through all the cognitive trouble of rearranging our sentences, burying the actor, and relying on this complex formula?
It is extra work.
It is. Why not just speak actively all the time? This moves us into what I think is the most profound part of the guide, the psychology of evasion.
This is where it gets really good.
The source material lays out 3 distinct, fascinating motives for why we actually deploy the passive voice in real life.
Because this is where grammar transcends mere rules on a page. It becomes a vital tool for social navigation.
Social survival, almost.
Yes. We don't just use different sentence structures to make our writing sound varied. We use them because we have different agendas, different priorities, and sometimes different things we desperately need to hide.
Let's dig into reason number 1 from the guide. It calls this the unknown agent.
The unknown agent.
The example the text provides is something anyone can instantly understand and fear. My car was stolen.
Such a visceral example.
It really is. My car was stolen.
If we unpack the psychology of this moment, we see that the passive voice here is born out of sheer practical necessity.
Necessity.
I want you to think about the active alternative. If you were forced to use the active voice in this scenario, what would you even say?
Well, I'd have to say, a thief stole my car. Or some unknown human stole my car.
But what does that really add to the communication? We obviously know a thief did it.
Yep.
Cars do not hotwire themselves and drive away.
Right.
But the specific identity of that thief, their name, their face, their motive, is entirely unknown to us.
Right. If you call the police, you aren't going to say, John Doe, standing 5'10" and wearing a blue jacket, stole my car at exactly 2:00 a.m.
No, you wouldn't.
Because if you knew all that specific, active information, you wouldn't be standing there in shock on the sidewalk. You'd probably just go get your car back.
Exactly. You literally do not know who the agent is.
So it's an unknown void.
Yes.
Yeah.
And because the agent is a complete mystery, a void in your knowledge, the human mind naturally reprioritizes.
It shuffles the data.
It pushes the most important, emotionally resonant piece of information that we actually do have to the very front of our consciousness.
Which is the missing vehicle.
The missing vehicle. The focus remains entirely, obsessively on the loss. My car is the victim here. It is the center of your immediate emotional distress.
And so it aggressively demands to be the subject of the sentence.
The passive voice isn't just an artistic choice here. It allows us to structure the sentence to perfectly match our psychological reality in a moment of crisis.
Form follows feeling.
Yes. The void of the unknown thief is ignored, and the trauma of the lost car is elevated.
That is deeply insightful. We use the grammar to put the emotional center of gravity right at the front.
Exactly.
Now, reason number 2 is slightly different, though it shares some DNA with the first. The guide calls it the irrelevant agent. The irrelevant agent.
The example provided here is the house was built in 1990.
If the first reason was about necessity, this second usage is a masterclass in shifting importance and managing cognitive load for the listener.
Cognitive load. Walk me through that.
Imagine you are looking at a house, perhaps reading a real estate listing or taking a historical tour. The crucial data point for you is the age of the structure.
Right.
The date of construction tells you a story about the architectural style, the potential wear and tear on the foundation, the historical context of the neighborhood.
It tells you if there's lead paint.
Exactly. High-value information. But what it doesn't tell you, and what you frankly couldn't care less about, are the names of the individual contractors who swung the hammers and poured the concrete.
Precisely. To use the active voice here to say, Mob, Larry, Susan, and a team of 20 other laborers built this house in 1990.
It just clutters the communication.
It clutters it with completely useless trivia.
Yeah.
We simply don't care about the agents in this context.
They are irrelevant.
The passive voice acts as a sophisticated cognitive filter. It allows us to efficiently strip away the irrelevant actors and deliver only the high-value information.
The house and the year.
Yes, it delivers that right to the listener. It's an editorial choice disguised as a grammatical rule.
An editorial choice disguised as grammar. That is the perfect way to phrase it. It's like we are directing a documentary film, and we are making a conscious choice about where to point the camera lens.
We frame the shot.
We pointed at the majestic house and the year it was founded, and we actively pan away from the sweaty workers in the background.
Perfect analogy.
Okay, which leads us directly into reason number 3.
Ah, the best one.
This is the one I find the most entertaining, but also, if we are being completely honest, probably the most common reason we deploy this structure in our daily lives.
Hiding the truth.
Hiding the truth. The source guide uses the absolute classic domestic example. The vase was broken.
This is the absolute pinnacle of the passive voice being used as a defensive mechanism.
The shield.
Let's really analyze the evasive tactic at play here. We have a hypothetical culprit. Let's imagine it's a child playing ball in the house, or perhaps a very clumsy adult.
Who definitely knows what they did.
Who knows beyond a shadow of a doubt that their swinging arm knocked the antique vase off the table. They are the undeniable agent of destruction.
They possess the active truth.
They possess the complete, horrific knowledge of the active voice. I broke the vase.
But stepping forward and saying I broke the vase is a full confession.
It is.
It invites immediate, perhaps severe consequences. It invites the wrath of whoever loved and owned that vase.
Exactly. The inactive voice is dangerous here.
Yeah.
It is physically dangerous to their well-being. So, the culprit deliberately avoids it.
And they pivot.
By deploying the passive voice and saying, the vase was broken, they attempt a psychological trick. They adopt the tone of an impartial, journalistic observer.
Just reporting the facts on the ground.
They are simply reporting a tragedy that spontaneously occurred in their general vicinity.
It wasn't me, it was physics.
It entirely removes their agency from the equation. It's a linguistic sleight of hand designed to make them sound like an innocent bystander.
Or at least to buy some time.
Right. To delay the inevitable assignment of blame while the listener processes the shock of the broken vase.
It is the absolute domestic equivalent of the famous, infuriating political non-apology, mistakes were made.
Oh, the classic.
I'm sure you, listening right now, have heard a politician or a CEO use that exact phrase when they are caught in a scandal. Mistakes were made.
It happens all the time.
Who made the mistakes? They won't say. The mistakes just mysteriously sprang into existence from the ether.
It's brilliant.
It's brilliant, and it's cowardly all at once. And to perfectly illustrate this third motive of hiding the truth, the guide provides a short, highly amusing narrative meant to be read slowly for learners.
A great little story.
Let's dive into our analysis of the story titled The Magic House.
This narrative is the crown jewel of the source material
It really ties it all together.
because it perfectly encapsulates everything we've discussed so far. The specific vocabulary, the structural formula, and those deep psychological motives.
The narrative sets a very clear, very relatable scene. We have a character named Lukas, who is currently lying horizontally on the sofa.
The lazy bones.
Remember our vocabulary word, lazy bones. Lukas is currently embodying that word to its absolute fullest extent. Then our second character, Anna, comes home, and she walks into what appears to be a domestic miracle. The kitchen, which was presumably a disaster zone when she left, is completely clean.
The visual and energetic contrast is established immediately for the reader. We have the diligent Anna arriving to a pristine environment.
And Lukas is just there.
And the inert, unmoving Lukas claiming the sofa. It's a classic, tension-filled domestic setup that anyone who has ever lived with another human being can understand.
Oh, for sure. Anna is understandably surprised and perhaps a bit suspicious. This brings us to the interrogation phase of the story.
The confrontation.
She asks Lukas a very direct, active voice question. Wow, did you clean the kitchen?
She wants the active agent.
She's demanding, clearly and grammatically, to know the agent of the action. But Lukas, as we are about to see, is a black belt in evasion.
A master.
He smiles from the sofa and he replies, no, the kitchen was cleaned.
Let's pause and truly admire the brilliance of Lukas's grammatical deployment in this exact moment.
It's infuriating but genius.
He answers the specific active question truthfully. No, he didn't do it. He doesn't lie.
He doesn't lie.
But he utterly refuses to provide the active alternative. He doesn't say who did do it. He just confirms the pristine state of the room using the passive formula.
The kitchen was cleaned.
By doing this, he creates an immediate aura of mystery.
But wait, if he didn't do it, and he knows he didn't do it, why not just say, I didn't do it, I don't know who did? Why use the passive voice at all?
Because saying I don't know makes him look uninformed, or perhaps highlights his laziness even more.
Like you were sitting right there and didn't even notice who cleaned the kitchen.
Exactly. By using the passive voice, the kitchen was cleaned, he elevates himself from a lazy observer to a keeper of secrets.
Ah, he takes control.
He takes complete control of the narrative without taking any responsibility for the actual labor.
That is infuriatingly clever. Anna, thankfully, pushes back. She doesn't accept the void. She asks, by whom?
Good for her.
And Lukas just leans further into the evasion. He says, it is a mystery. The dishes were washed. The trash was taken out.
Just stacking them up.
He is just stacking passive sentences on top of each other, building a literal wall of grammar between himself and the truth.
It really is a form of grammatical gaslighting.
Grammatical gaslighting, I love that.
He is describing these manually intensive, completed chores as if they were acts of nature, like the weather patterns.
The rain fell, the wind blew.
The trash was taken out. He is deliberately hiding the truth, which is our third motive for using the passive voice. But notice the subtle shift here.
What's the shift?
She's not doing it to avoid punishment, like the kid with the broken vase.
Right, because a clean kitchen is a good thing.
Exactly. He's doing it for his own amusement. He is enjoying the power dynamic of withholding information from Anna.
But Anna is sharp. She doesn't buy the magical house routine for a single second. And here comes the twist in the narrative, the revelation of the true agent.
The big reveal.
Anna looks around the pristine kitchen, and she spots the robot vacuum resting in its charging dock. The mystery is instantly solved. She points to it and says, "Ah, I see. The floor is being cleaned by the robot."
This is a crucial turning point in the story, both narratively and grammatically.
Yes.
Anna reestablishes objective reality. The magic is gone. The technology is revealed as the laborer, and she uses the passive voice to state this fact, but crucially, she actively modifies the formula.
She adds the agent back in.
She adds the agent back into the sentence, which leads directly to Lukas's final hypocritical grammatical pivot.
Yes, the punchline of the story is fantastic. Having successfully avoided all the physical work and having played his little game of linguistic mystery from the comfort of the sofa,
The lazy bones.
Lucas suddenly decides he wants to be the star of the show when it comes time for the reward.
Of course he does.
He nods at Anna, completely unashamed, and says, "Exactly, and the pizza will be eaten by me."
It's a wonderful comedic deed, and it relies entirely on an understanding of the grammar we've been discussing.
He really does.
Lukas has spent the entire story hiding behind the passive voice to obscure his laziness and feign ignorance. But the exact moment there is a tangible benefit to be claimed, the pizza, he uses the passive voice again. But this time, he explicitly attaches himself to the action. He highlights himself.
The pizza will be eaten by me.
It shows just how incredibly flexible the structure is. It can be used as a shroud to hide in, but it can also be used as a spotlight for a dramatic reveal.
It's so triumphant for a guy who hasn't moved a single muscle. This story is just a brilliant piece of curriculum design.
It really is.
It entertains the reader while perfectly, almost subversively, encapsulating the real-world manipulative application of the grammar.
Yes.
Now, Anna's discovery of the robot vacuum and Lucas's dramatic, selfish claim over the pizza both utilize a specific grammatical tool that we need to unpack further.
The by phrase.
Right. This brings us to a crucial nuance in the source material. Giving credit where it's due, we're talking about the by agent.
Yes. Up until this point in our analysis, we have largely focused on how the passive voice deletes or obscures the actor.
We've talked about it as an eraser.
It's exactly an eraser. But as we just saw in the climax of the story, sometimes we do want to reveal who performed the action within a passive sentence structure.
Sometimes we want the subject of the sentence to remain the receiver of the action. We want the floor or the pizza to be the star, but we still feel compelled to give a shout out to the one actually doing the work.
To tie them back in.
The guide introduces the incredibly simple two-letter word "by" for this exact specific purpose.
It acts as a linguistic tether. It allows you to flip the sentence structure, prioritizing the object and the action, but then you throw a little rope at the end, the word by, to tie the original actor back into the scene.
A linguistic tether. I like that.
However, there is a massive cultural and contextual nuance here that the guide touches upon, which is what we might call the rule of importance.
The rule of importance, right. Because if we just constantly added by someone to the end of every single passive sentence, it would defeat the purpose.
It would be exhausting.
We just go back to using the active voice.
Precisely. If we constantly tacked on the agent, it would become incredibly tedious and defeat the efficiency of the structure.
My car was stolen by a thief.
The house was built by builders. It's entirely redundant. As a general rule in English, we only bother to add the by phrase when the person, or the specific entity that did the action, is famous, highly important, or absolutely essential to understanding the core context of the sentence.
The source guide provides two very clear, universally understood examples to illustrate this high-profile usage.
What are they?
The first is Harry Potter was written by J.K. Rowling, and the second is the painting was made by Picasso. Let's dig into why these are the chosen examples.
Let's analyze the cultural weight of these sentences. In the first example, Harry Potter is an enormous cultural phenomenon.
Massive.
It is a massive entity in its own right, a billion-dollar franchise. So it rightfully takes this subject position at the front of the sentence. It is the thing being discussed.
The star of the sentence.
However, the authorship is also a vital, inseparable piece of historical and cultural information. You cannot divorce the phenomenon from the creator entirely without losing meaning.
People want to know who wrote it.
So we use the passive structure to elevate the book, and we use the by agent to permanently, inextricably attach the author to her creation.
I'd imagine it's the exact same with the Picasso example.
Exactly the same.
Think about it. You might be standing in a crowded museum, staring at a breathtaking, massive piece of art. The painting is the focus of your immediate visual reality.
It commands the room.
It is taking up your entire field of vision. It is the undeniable subject of your attention. So your brain starts the thought. The painting was made.
But you can't stop there.
But if you stop there, you are leaving out the most valuable piece of context. You absolutely want to drop the name of the master who created it. By Picasso.
Right.
It gives credit where credit is profoundly due while still letting the artwork be the visual star.
Exactly. The grammar here reflects our societal values. We elevate the art, but we revere the master.
That's a great way to put it.
And if we connect this philosophical concept back to our story of Lukas and Anna, Anna used this exact by structure to give proper credit to the true hero of their domestic narrative.
The robot vacuum.
The robot vacuum. When she said, the floor is being cleaned by the robot, she wasn't letting Lukas maintain his ridiculous self-serving mystery.
She shut it down.
She used the by agent to definitively assign responsibility, effectively ruining his attempt to obscure the truth.
She literally used grammar to defeat his gaslighting. I love that so much. It's linguistic combat.
It really is.
Now, to really solidify all these abstract concepts and psychological motives, the guide concludes with a rapid-fire interactive exercise.
It's a transformation game.
Yes, it's time to look at flipping the script, or as the source playfully calls it, the transformation game. The instructions are simple but demanding.
Okay.
Anna provides a standard active sentence, and Lukas must instantly, without hesitation, flip it into a passive sentence.
This is a classic cognitive drill in language learning. But looking at it through our psychological lens, it's so much more than just rote memorization.
It forces you to see the shift.
It forces the learner to recognize what happens to the focus, to the emotional center of gravity in the sentence, the exact second that structural flip occurs. Let's break down the psychological shifts in each round.
Okay, let's look at round one. Anna throws out the active sentence. Someone cleans the office.
Active.
Lukas instantly flips it, applying the formula to the office is cleaned.
What's fascinating to observe here is the complete erasure of the vague actor.
Someone.
Someone is a remarkably weak, non-specific word. It adds almost zero value to the sentence. When Lukas flips it to the sentence, the office is cleaned, that vague someone completely evaporates.
This disappears.
And the result is that the clean office is elevated to the subject. The state of cleanliness becomes the absolute, undeniable focus. It's a much stronger, more definitive statement than the active version.
It sounds significantly more professional, too. If you run a business, you don't say someone cleans our offices. You say the offices are cleaned.
It projects order.
It projects order and reliability, separating the result from the messy reality of manual labor.
Absolutely.
Okay, round two. Anna says, someone stole my phone. And Lukas flips it to, my phone was stolen.
We talked about a similar example earlier with the car.
We did, but seeing the immediate flip side by side really highlights the stark difference in impact.
It really does highlight it. In the active version, someone stole my phone, the sentence begins with an unknown, faceless enemy. It's almost distracting.
Your brain stalls out on someone.
Your brain spends a millisecond trying to picture someone before getting to the tragedy. But when flipped to R, my phone was stolen. The emotional focus zeroes in entirely, immediately on the loss.
The prized possession.
The listener instantly feels sympathy for the speaker because the phone, which contains their whole life, is front and center. The passive voice here operates as an engine for generating empathy.
An engine for generating empathy. I'm going to remember that. It bypasses the logical question of who and goes straight to the emotional reality of what was lost.
Exactly.
Round three shifts away from personal loss to a much larger global scale.
Okay.
Anna says, millions of people speak English. Lukas flips it. English is spoken by millions of people.
This one requires a deep dive. Because both versions are completely grammatically acceptable and commonly used in everyday speech.
You hear both all the time.
However, the shift in focus fundamentally changes the conceptual star of the sentence. In the active version, the masses of humanity. Millions of people are the stars. They are the active agents performing a global unifying action.
But when you flip it,
Right.
it feels different. It feels heavier somehow.
Yes. In the passive flip, English moves to the front. The language itself becomes a monumental, almost geographical entity.
An institution.
It sits there, vast and immovable, and is simply serviced by the millions of people. It elevates the concept of the language above the human beings actually speaking it. If you think about it, this is the grammar of empire building. It's the grammar of institutional power. It subtly suggests that the language, the corporation, the nation is the primary reality, and the people are secondary.
That is profound. A simple grammar drill revealing how we conceptualize institutional power over the individual.
From people speak the language to the language is spoken by the people.
It's a subtle but massive shift in worldview. Okay, now we reach round 4, which the guide frames as a suspenseful joke to end the lesson on a high note.
The finale.
Anna gives the final active sentence. Anna is watching Lukas.
And Lukas performs the grammatical flip flawlessly. But in doing so, he triggers a stark psychological realization within himself. He says, Lukas is being watched.
And he immediately reflexively follows it up with, uh-oh, I should start working.
It is brilliant comedic writing, but it's based on a very real psychological phenomenon.
How so?
By changing the sentence to the passive voice, Lukas is being watched, it suddenly makes the situation sound incredibly ominous.
Oh, totally.
Think about the difference. Anna is watching Lukas is just a mundane statement of fact about Anna's current visual focus. It's domestic. It's grounded.
It's just two people in a room.
But Lukas is being watched implies surveillance. It implies a target on his back.
Right.
The passive voice here strips away Anna's specific, known, perhaps benign identity and replaces it with an unseen, looming, generalized authority.
It's terrifying.
It is the grammar of paranoia. It's the linguistic equivalent of the panopticon, the feeling that you are under constant surveillance by an unknown entity.
The grammar of paranoia, that is exactly what it feels like. The sudden lack of an active named subject makes the act of watching feel like a heavy, oppressive force pressing down on him from all sides.
And it works.
It works. It is finally enough pressure to force our dedicated lazy bones off the sofa and into action.
It's a hilarious and deeply insightful way to end the source material. It proves beyond a shadow of a doubt that the structure of a sentence isn't just about following arbitrary rules in a textbook.
Not at all.
It's about the emotional atmosphere you create, the reality you dictate, and the psychological pressure you can exert.
And that profound realization brings us to the end of our deep dive into this incredibly clever, deceptively simple English guide.
What a journey.
To summarize our takeaways for you, the listener, what we initially approached as a straightforward intermediate grammar lesson about a rigid formula subject plus B plus V3 has proven to be an absolute masterclass in directing human attention and manipulating reality.
Indeed. We've spent our time unpacking how manipulating the subject and the verb allows us to literally shape the reality presented to the listener.
It's incredibly powerful.
We can use this structural formula to highlight a perfectly clean room while conveniently ignoring the hardworking, sweaty staff who made it happen.
We can use it to focus entirely on our grief over a stolen car while ignoring the terrifying reality of an unknown thief.
And, of course, as Lukas demonstrated so well, we can use it to hide the fact that we broke a favorite vase, or to shroud our own laziness in a veil of linguistic mystery.
The passive voice is a profoundly powerful, everyday tool. It is the linguistic equivalent of a stage magician's misdirection.
Look over here, not over there.
Exactly. You force the audience to look over here at the broken vase or the clean kitchen, while you quietly sweep your own responsibility, your own agency, right under the rug.
And that leaves us with something very important for you to consider as you go about your day.
A final thought.
We've spent this entire deep dive unpacking how and why we as individuals actively choose to use the passive voice to shift focus, to elevate objects, or to hide the truth.
But communication is always a two-way street.
It is. Now that you are armed with this deep structural knowledge, how often do you think you will start noticing it being used on you?
Oh, that is a fantastic question to end on.
Think critically about the media you consume daily. The next time a politician is backed into a corner, dodging a difficult question during a press conference, listen closely for the passive voice.
When they refuse to say, I authorize the payment, and instead say, the payment was authorized.
Yes. The next time a major corporation issues a public relations apology for a massive data breach or an environmental disaster, watch out for phrases like, mistakes were made or protocols were not followed.
Who didn't follow them, they won't say.
Exactly. Or, on a much more intimate personal level, the next time you find a lazy bones in your own home standing over a mess, pay sharp attention to exactly how they describe what happened.
The vase was broken.
Once you understand the mechanics and the motives of the passive voice, the world becomes a very different, much more revealing place.
You will truly never be able to unhear it. It's like discovering the underlying matrix of everyday conversation. You'll see the code behind the excuses.
You really will.
Well, that is all the time we have for today's exploration. Keep your ears open, watch out for those mysteriously broken mugs in your kitchen, and we will catch you on the next deep dive.